everybody. Thank you for joining us today at the SUTD Open House 2022, and welcome to the Ask DAI session. Please welcome Professor Tai Li Xiang, Director of Design Z and Program Director of the Design and AI Degree Program. With him is Dr. Edwin Koh, Associate Program Head of the DAI Program, and our industry guests on stage from the Ministry of Defense, Dr. Pan Sing Hao, from Changi General Hospital, Dr. Charlene Liu, and from DINATA Singapore, Mr. Ashraf Abdul Rashid. So to begin, let's watch a short video about the DAI program.
Our world is facing urgent challenges, ranging from climate change, the pandemic, to unstable economy. These complex issues demand urgent solutions designed by a new breed of specialists. Hence, we created a new DAI program, a new degree program that brings design and artificial intelligence together. DAI is a multidisciplinary program where students learn the fundamentals of computing, engineering, and design, coupled with big data and artificial intelligence, to develop new products, services, and systems. And all this is to help create a better world by design. The design trend of the 21st century is firmly established in digital revolution. Today, we are surrounded by data. Such data is constantly being captured, analyzed, but it requires specialists who use such data with intelligence for innovative solutions that improve lives. If you want to help our world, our new DAI program aims to nurture a new generation of designers and innovators who can transform the way we live by creating better design through AI. Start this journey with SUTD to master the powerful combination of design and AI. SUTD's DAI program has 4 signature AI-driven design studios where you learn through hands-on experiences working on real-world data provided by sponsoring companies. These studios cover a range of design domains including product, service, systems, and spatial design, ensuring that you are well prepared for your future career. My name is Professor Tai Li Xiang. I'm the Director of Design Z hosting the DAI program. If you want to harness the power of design and AI to change the world, join us.
That was a wonderful video. If you're all curious about the DAI program, who else to learn from apart from the man who is leading it himself? So over to you, Dr. Tai.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to see all of you. Now, I'm going to share a bit about the hosting organization called Design Z, hosting the DAI program. But again, the philosophy is consistent throughout from the Design Z center level to the degree level. Now, just to give you a bit of background before I share more about Design Z, I've been a practicing architect for more than 30 years. But again, the design world is very much a part of my world. I have also chaired the Alliance for all the design associations. So again, I've seen a lot of challenges in the design world. So I'm very happy that since I joined SUTD in 2021, that is last year, I've been tasked to set up the new design center. And this is going to be very exciting because we're going to address a lot of issues. So as a start, why Z? So quite simply, we are planning the center for you, Gen Z. And it also should reflect the spirit of the age as the word zeitgeist suggests. But for me, I'm very passionate about sustainability, and circularity is a very important part of it. So of all the 26 letters alphabet, we need to remember to design for the N in mind. And lastly, we are all driven by zeal. So we're going to look at the purpose of Design Z as one that drives design value, design creations, address the issues I just talked about, circularity and sustainability. And of course, we want to build a generation of interdisciplinary designers like yourselves when you join us, and train polymath of design like Da Vinci. So the context of design is obvious to all of us. We are dealing and living in a world of climate change. So I don't need to say more. We're seeing strange phenomena these days. We're dealing with a pandemic. We're all living the consequence of it right now. And also, socially, it's not an easy time for all of us. You can see the upheaval of political conditions, social conditions throughout the world. And there is obviously issues of polarization of wealth. So it is a very complex world. How do you tackle issues like these? We set up Design Z with a very bold vision that we want to see happen in the next 100 years, and that is a humane and circular world by design, where lives are transformed, economy is driven by circularity, and last but not least, bring our carbon emission to zero. I know I say 100 years, but I'm quite sure all of us have been watching the news that we want to do it faster. So this is actually a very important understanding of design evolution since 1300s. Those of you who've done a bit of history will know that Renaissance is really a time where art flourishes, so are sciences. But design is very much spoken of it as an art form, where it's bespoke creations were developed. So with the Industrial Revolution, we see design very much linked with technology. But come 2000 onwards, where we enter into this digital age, design is very much about intelligence. And it has to be so because the issues that we tackle are getting more and more complex. And just by doing things in the old ways won't cut it. So here in SUTD, very importantly, we define the design differently from what most other people would have thought design as. And most of the world outside think of design as icing on the cake, packaging, graphics, UX, UI. But here we think of design as technology, powered by technology. It's an informed, intentional, intelligent, and imaginative force that will drive innovations to improve lives, grow economies, and sustain our world. So if you join us, we welcome you to join the force. So here are the things that we believe in, right? A better world by design is solve problems, change lives, made more powerful by digitalization and big data, and also make sure that the benefits are quantifiable and experienceable. I'd like to take you 100 years forward, what we hope to see design become. It becomes more intelligent, where our lives will greatly benefit from it. It becomes more personal, because no longer that things or products are produced for masses, but produced for individual needs. And also not forgetting that we have to make things more affordable. And last but not least, more recyclable. So this is our vision of what design will be. And we hope that DAI will help us take us to that journey 100 years from now. So we have 4 themes in our pursuit of design, and that is circularity, top priority for us, connectivity by design, health and wellness, and also zero carbon city by design. So when you join us, you will experience part and parcel of this quest for design excellence. Now we have under Design Z 4 programs. This is where I'm going to tell you where DAI sits in. We have what I use this word RISE to summarize it. Of course, research. We hope to be able to stretch our research to frontier land, to blue sky research. And in terms of innovation, we like to deal with the existing conditions, the status quo, and see how we can take it to one level higher. And in terms of services, we not only want to provide design consultancy services, but more importantly, we want to be socially responsible by leading the charge on sustainability, both for this university as well as for our collaborators. And last but not least, a good center must have education as its pillar, and this is where DAI comes in. So I'm going to stop here and pass it to Dr. Edwin Koh to continue to explain to you the details of this program. But before I leave, I want to just tell you this, that we are now, through DAI, producing a whole generation of designers that no one has seen before. Okay, I've been in practice, I've been a designer myself. I know that where the pitfalls are, that by silo approach, we can never solve complex problems. But the future of design lies in this generation of DAI graduates who are not only good in design, but armed with big data intelligence to help us solve very, very complex issues that the world faces. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. So our mission at DAI is to produce a new generation of designers and innovators that can transform the way we live through better design with AI. The program is driven by high demands in AI professionals and innovators worldwide and is aligned to our national drive towards an AI-driven digital economy. So for example, it was reported that about 10,000 new jobs will be created in the next few years in the area of digitalization and innovation. Now, DAI builds on SUTD design DNA to equip our students with fundamental knowledge in design and AI. And it empowers them in the use of AI tools and methodologies to design solutions on real-world challenges. And we call these better use of AI. And this better use of AI is applied across traditional design domains, covering product design, service design, systems design, and spatial design. Now, there are a few features unique to the DAI program. Firstly, we have 4 AI-driven design studios that will take place in the second and third year of the program. These studios allows our students to undergo hands-on experiential learning on real-world issues through company-sponsored projects. So in doing so, all our graduates will have a portfolio of design projects to show their prospective employers. Students can also be exposed to a range of business subjects to help them better understand the importance of value creation. And we do that through specialization tracks, and I'll talk a bit about that later. They're also required to take courses on humanities, arts, and social sciences for a well-rounded education. And depending on their interests, students will have the flexibility to take on more courses in various topics through elective courses. So this is a quick overview of the courses to be taken by DAI students. So these are first-year freshman courses to be taken by all SUTD students, and they cover topics from design thinking to modeling and analysis. Courses in the second year onwards are DAI courses, and examples of those are machine learning and applied deep learning, where students will be exposed to AI techniques such as decision trees and neural network. There's also a course on AI applications in design, where students will learn about design theory and how AI can be applied to support design. So with all these courses, our students will have a strong foundation to embed AI in what they're designing, and also to use AI to help them design. Now, in addition to that, students can also pursue a specialization with us. So we have 2 tracks at the moment: the enterprise design track to prepare students who would like to create new startups or to lead transformational changes within an organization. And also for those who aspire to be in the healthcare sector, we have a healthcare design track. So upon graduation, our students would be awarded a Bachelor of Science in Design and Artificial Intelligence. So the focus on AI and credential in design innovation will give our graduates an advantage in the job market. So these are some possible career prospects for our graduates, from AI engineers to business analysts to user experience designers and many more. And here are some of the industry partners that we have engaged so far for our studio. Right, so with this, I think it's a good time for us to transit to our panel discussion to know a bit more about the current and future trend of AI and design. And we're very fortunate today to have an eclectic mix of industry partners or speakers from industry and from academia. So we have Professor Tai, Director Design Z and DAI mentioned earlier, Dr. Pan from MINDEF, Mr. Ashraf from DINATA, and Dr. Charlene Liu from China General Hospital. Welcome. Now, when it comes to design and AI, both terms are often open to interpretations. So for me, design is a process of understanding user needs, generating solutions, and evaluating them. So that's one way of looking at it. So another way to look at it is to use AI to help us design, to help us understand needs, generate and evaluate solutions. But that's just two ways in my head, and there are others. So I think to kind of set the context for the discussion and put everyone on the same page, perhaps we can have everyone in the panel to share with us their views. What does using AI in design mean to you? So perhaps we can start for you. Dr. Tai, please.
I will use one very popular topic on sustainability to share with you. I used to chair the World Green Building Council, and we have 70 country members. And oftentimes when we talk about sustainability, we think about solar panels, we think about cutting energy. But the discussion at the global level is extremely complicated. It's about policies, it's about human behavior, it's about, again, environmental mitigation. And the more, at one time we actually had run a workshop internally with our country members in trying to map out the system of where we can start even the sustainability journey. I don't need to tell you that no surface, no PowerPoint can ever capture that system map. It's so complicated. And that I'm talking about 10 years ago. How I wish we have DAI, because this is where the power of AI and machine learning and technology can come in and help us analyze very complex situations, simulate thousands and thousands of scenarios, and look at the pros and cons of each approaches. And I think we're probably better off if we have started off that way. So that will be hopefully a simple illustration of why I say DAI is so relevant and important today. Thanks.
Dr. Pan, please.
Right. So to me, when I think of design and AI, what comes to mind is really the interplay between the human and the machines, right? So AI is very often about automating or augmenting what the human can do. It's artificial intelligence, right, to support the human intelligence. And design, it's about creating innovative solutions to solve real-world problems that impact humans, right, impact our community. So when you put the two together, it's about how the humans and machines work together to create solutions, right? So you could have AI supporting the designer, evaluating a lot of these solutions, right, to come up with better designs. Or you could flip it the other way around and think of the human designers coming up with good solutions of making an AI system trustworthy and also very intuitive for other humans to use, right? And there's a lot of interplay, a lot of different ways that you could put this together, right? So to me, design and AI is really about how we think of AI, use machines to support humans to come up with good solutions.
Right, thank you. Ashraf, please.
Yeah, so for myself, when you ask AI in design, so I think, because from my industry's perspective, I think there will be a change in mindset, a change in processes. Because it's a very regulated industry, it's very difficult for, technology to come into play when it's not as regulated as yet. So, but the idea is to obviously move forward, and I think the industry has taken up to that metal. And I must say that the industry is slowly accepting it, and we've seen a lot of projects leading to that, to kind of supplement the human interaction with also the solutions that they've provided, which is very important because we're moving towards that direction of the world. And, Terminal 5 is coming up, and I think a lot of the operations there are focusing a lot on artificial intelligence, autonomous operations. So as an industry, we slowly need to, take upon the idea that, AI is going to be, kind of a daily part of our lives. And we have to accept, that sooner or later with open mind, open hearts. And I think only then we can actually move forward better, to create a better solution for both ourselves and systems that we can collaborate in the future. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Next, can we have Dr. Liu, please?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. So I actually live in the intersection between the humanities and the sciences. So I work in a hospital. I'm a doctor by training. And I think not one day goes by that I ask myself, what could we have done better as a human species to prevent what we're in now with the COVID-19 pandemic? There's so many solutions that we have not thought about, and the risk, as you know, is huge economically and to our progress as a species. So I think, to me, DAI, design and artificial intelligence, what it means is, how do we integrate AI solutions into solving the problems, the big, naughty problems. And for the first time in history, we have actually the tools to do so. We have had AI for many years, since the 70s, but only recently have we had the technology, the GPUs, the computing power to process all that information. So we are at the crossroads. We are at a very unique point in history where we can actually determine our future as a human species. And I strongly believe that this pandemic will not be the last. So for the next pandemic, I think here is where you, as a student of DAI, here is where you can step in. Here is where you can work with healthcare and design systems that can predict, analyze data, and how do we manage, really complex problems in hospitals. Bearing in mind also, just one more important point is that we actually live right in the center of what is called the Valerie Pyrrhus Circle. So it's a circle about 5,000 kilometers radius, centered in Southeast Asia. And more human beings live inside the circle than outside of the circle. So we are at the point of maximum impact. You can actually make a maximum impact because we have been born in this place, in this period of time. So, I would, ask you all to go home with that thought when you're making your decisions about what to do with the rest of your life. How can I make an impact? And here is where you can make an impact in design and AI.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Now, one question I would have is whether all of you would be able to say a bit more about some examples that's been the use of AI in design in your industry, and what are the opportunities that you can foresee? So maybe we'll start with Prof. Tai.
Well, thanks, Charlene. I mean, your message really drives a very sobering thought to me about pandemic. I'm going to answer that question. Because of, before pandemic, we kind of live in the world of business as usual. We were actually practicing legacy ways of doing things. There's no urge, there's just simply no pressure to actually adopt a higher technology. But in pandemic, we just cannot take it anymore. After 3 months of lockdown, 3 months of working from home, I think the world suddenly realized that we have no other option. So I start with that also because I just want to say that before joining SUTD, I was with BCA. And the classic problem then was the pandemic affects everyone. There's no distinction of who you are. So certainly the whole construction sector grind to a halt. And that's the first time where suddenly the very, very few data scientists that we have in the office suddenly found themselves a great job role. And they became so sought after by every department to try to solve complex issues of tracing, of allocation, assignment of resources, blah, blah, blah. But there's one thing still missing, because they are good at analysis, but they can't quite come up with the creation of solution. It needs to work with the rest of the people who are not trained in design, not trained in AI. So I think that was a classic example where I can tell you that this is going to be greatly sought after. I'll give you one more example. In my field of architecture, we're now speaking to firms that urgently trying to seek collaboration with us to design intelligent software so that a design could be generated versus the past, taking 3 to 6 months to generate. Now we're talking about 3 to 6 days to generate thousands and thousands of options, not just for commercial purpose, but to tackle issues of climate change, to come up with solutions that immediately we know from the start of that design to the end of life of this project, how much it can achieve in terms of carbon reduction, in terms of sustainability. That's the power of the two combination. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Dr. Pon?
Right, so opportunities in the industry, right? So I would say that the Ministry of Defense and the defense sector as a whole is probably one of the largest ministries in government. And in fact, there has been a lot of emphasis on using technology for quite a while now. So we have a very large defense tech community. And as a result of that, there are actually a lot of problems that we do face across the different aspects of defense and managing a large organization that we apply AI to, right? Unfortunately, I couldn't really tell everyone too much about some of these more secret things. So I'll just focus on a few that are more public and comes to mind that really highlights this interaction between AI and design. Right, so the first one here that I think of is robotics, right? So we know how increasingly we are using drones and autonomous robots to fight battles, to win wars, right? And the platforms that we have, they are chock full of AI. Right? You have to have the robots being able to navigate on their own, to be able to complete the mission, and sometimes to work with humans to complete the mission, right? But that's one aspect of it. The other aspect that's increasingly gaining prominence is how do you use AI to design better platforms, right? How do we use AI to design better planes, better ships, right? So this is a new area. It's a very exciting area, and in not just defense, but in the larger industry, it's something that people are looking into, and it's a new growth area that hopefully we will be able to use that to design better platforms. The second area that I want to talk about is the decision support systems, right? And this is an area where we have been working on with AI for very long. And the important thing that, so what these systems are used for are to provide commanders and soldiers with information in the fog of war, right? To help them think through with all the conflicting signals that are coming through. And that's where we use AI. But the area where it's very important to think about is how do you make these systems usable for the humans, right? And you have to design them well. Right, and to give them the pertinent information in a way that they can trust it, and instead of adding to the confusion. Right? And the third area that I want to talk about, so those were more wartime kind of operations, but the third area has to do with peacetime. Right? So one of the very important areas in defense is peacetime training. And one of the problems that we think about there is how do we train realistically but safely. And this is actually one area that we had a project with SUTD in the design studio, looking at using wearables on soldiers and designing a system to measure the physiological signals and to indicate, to flag out when there's a higher risk of injury. So those are some areas where we see AI, there's opportunity for AI and design to interact in the defense industry.
All right, thank you. In fact, the project is now showcased outside the booth, so if you're available later, you can have a look at the descriptors. Mr. Ashraf, please.
So the aviation industry is traditionally a reactive industry and also quite labor intensive. And in Singapore's context, I think we have a serious problem with aging population. And with COVID, I think everything has really put into highlight, into perspective that we have to change the ways that we are doing things at the moment. And I think within the past 2 years, there's a lot of push to take on different, types of operations, different solutions. How do we integrate AI into our daily operations? And speaking from a ground handler's perspective, I think we were really bad hit because we rely a lot on the manpower, and we had a lot of foreigners as well who were helping us with our operations. And I think at that perspective, we've been trying to bring in new partners to collaborate with, for them to provide us solutions, some of which could be resource management systems that can leverage on AI to dynamically change, optimize scheduling of our different resources, and also to kind of have something to do with our cargo facility as well, to integrate AI to further optimize and lean out our accepting and forwarding processes at the facility so that we do not require extra manpower to do certain tasks. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the aviation industry, because as I said, it's a very reactive industry. So as long as there isn't anything that is affecting, I think the aviation community is actually more than happy to stay with their current way of doing things. So there is a lot of opportunity in the aviation industry. Yeah, and one of the areas where I think, because previously I was doing a bit of research with the Air Traffic Management Research Institute. So some of the things that they are doing during COVID is to supplement the air traffic controllers with a solution that could alleviate the burden to, because pre-COVID traffic is really, really high, and ATC can only manage so much. So the idea is to alleviate the burden, to reduce the air traffic congestion, to alleviate the congestion in ground movements. So there are a lot of opportunities in the aviation industry. So really looking forward to the next graduates of DAI to kind of like come into industry, provide new solutions, provide ways we can optimize further, because there's a lot of areas where we could actually do better. And I think with the new Terminal 5 coming up, I think there's more and more opportunities for you to learn, grow, and implement what you like to see and change the world. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Lee, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Ashraf said. Actually, he's hit the nail on the head. So one big concept that you should be aware of in healthcare, I think Minister Wong already talked about it recently at the budget, is the aging population and the doubling of the healthcare budget over the next few years because of the aging population. So aging is a multiplier effect. It's going to multiply all of our knotty problems by several orders of magnitude. And so we need to tackle this problem before it becomes a problem that we cannot dig ourselves out of. Therefore, I think the velocity of change is just as important as all the ideas and the problem-solving skills that we have. So that's one big concept that you need to think about. And that's where you can come in, because you're young, you've got energy, you've got ideas, and you can think outside of the box. I guess we'll come to that later. So if I can give you a few concrete examples of what we are doing in healthcare. So we divide it into the bricks and mortar design, and we talk about software, right, the AI models. So in design, the bricks and mortar, I can share with you a little bit about what we're doing with MOH. A lot of it is embargoed, but we are actually building platforms that connect our healthcare system data between the hospitals, and we're working to bring it into primary practice, which is the GPs, the polyclinics. And with that kind of platform and connection of data, you can imagine how much data we're harnessing. 80% of that data is in images alone. And we're talking about many, many, many petabytes of data. So there's a huge opportunity there in terms of infrastructure. So if you're designing in that or engineering in that kind of perspective, that is an opportunity. The other is in software engineering. So personally, I have dabbled in it. So recently, in March 2020, me and my team of collaborators, we actually built an AI model to predict the severity of COVID-19 pneumonia, whether a patient is likely to need ICU support, whether the patient is likely to pass away from COVID-19. And so we managed to build that in 4 months, and our results have been robust and comparable to pre-existing risk calculator, which are analog systems. And so, we can apply that on a large scale, so we can scale up. So that's one concrete example. The other examples we've done with DAI students are, how do we reduce errors? And errors are a huge problem in the healthcare industry. I think the figure quoted is the equivalent of one Boeing 747 crashing every few minutes. The amount of deaths that are caused by errors in the healthcare industry. And so the nursing team in CGH and DAI students actually built an AI system to recognize soiled surgical instruments and those that are clean, so that the nurses who are distracted with other work, they can focus on their work and leave the AI to do this kind of detection. And so, we can reduce errors, we can reduce our need for manpower to do menial and tedious tasks. And that's a huge way to mitigate the problem of increased healthcare spending in the future, which will all impact us, by the way, because we're all getting older. And also, it impacts our wallets, our pockets, right? So, because all these healthcare expenditure comes back to us at the end of the day. So, these are some of the concrete examples, and I could go on for hours, but just think of how we can, your motto of your school is to build a better world. And you just keep asking yourself that in healthcare, because there's so many things that we can do in healthcare, and we have not kept up with the times. I'm ashamed to admit, in healthcare, we have not kept up with the times. We are stuck in the 80s, I would say. A lot of our technology is legacy. So there's a huge vacuum, and you know what happens with a vacuum, right? It needs to be filled.
All right, thank you. Now, given that this is an open house event, I was wondering if our industry speaker can show us a bit more about what kind of graduates and skill sets you'll be looking for at your organization, and what kind of role you hope our DI graduates can fulfill. Maybe we'll start with Dr. Pan, please.
Right, so I think on one hand, we want people who are able to keep up with the technology. So AI is a fast-moving, fast-growing field. And even for myself, I have to keep up with the technology that's coming out every few months, every few years. We see completely new technology. And so we need people who have that thirst for learning, who have a flair for innovation, right? But the other important part of this is in industry, we are solving real world problems. So it's not just about coming out with better AI models, coming out with better AI solutions, but how do you actually build the right solutions to solve what people want? So the other aspect that we look for in potential hires is their ability to work with people, their ability to elicit the right problems, to go back and to figure out what is the right solution, what is the problem that we are even asking, right? So that human aspect is very important. And so when these hires come in and join us, we put our data scientists to actually work on the whole end-to-end solution. Right? So they will work with the stakeholders, talk to them, understand what the problem is, and through constant interaction with them, design the right solution. May not be the most complex AI model in there, but what's important is to actually solve the problem that the stakeholders have. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Mr. Ashraf?
I think some of the qualities that we look at for fresh graduates are someone who could look beyond the numbers, connect the dots. And I think it's really important that he or she can actually communicate their ideas through the different stakeholders, because the aviation industry is very interlinked with each other. So to be able to benefit the certain organization, it has to benefit the entire industry. So in that sense, you have to be able to have that bigger picture in mind, being able to empathize different problems, not only from your organization, but also the wider community, because at the end of the day, you will want to benefit, whatever solution that you're going to bring benefits the entire community rather than only the organizations, because with that only can the industry as a whole move forward. So someone who has a very open mind, someone who's very in tune with the technologies, like what Dr. Tan has said, all will be very beneficial to the industry. So, yeah.
Right, thank you. Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, I guess, just echoing what everyone has said, I think the most important skill set would be that we're looking for in a candidate is the ability to work in a team. I think that's pretty obvious, because in a hospital, we are not an island. We work with all sorts of healthcare professionals. We have colleagues in other specialties. We have nurses, radiographers, allied healthcare professionals, pharmacists. It's a huge team to make, the hospital work. So that's number one. I think the second most important skill set is tenacity. And I speak from experience, maybe quite painful experience, because I have been in this field of AI and trying to bring it into healthcare for 6 years now. And I've made progress, but it's slow, it's painful, it takes a lot of the determination to make things work and to see things through from start to finish. So you must never lose sight of your goal, but make sure that you have the right goal in mind. So here comes design thinking all over again, right? Empathize, you need to research, you need to define your problem and your solution. So the first two steps are incredibly important, because you are committed to it for the next 5-6 years of your life to see it being implemented in the hospital. So I guess these are the two most important qualities.
Right, thank you so much. So I wish we have more time, but we have another session coming up soon. So I think once again, I would like to thank our panel speakers for sharing with us the insights from industry perspective, from academia perspective on design AI. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Professor Tai and Dr. Koh, and our esteemed guests. For those who are attending the DAI Design Workshop, please exit this auditorium, go out to the lobby, cross over to the entrance of the library. There you'll meet your guides at the campus tour booth, who will lead you to the workshop room at Think Tank 17 for the DAI workshop. And for the rest of you who are here for the upcoming ASD workshop, please stand by. That will happen in about 10 minutes.